This moment right here.
The second button literally makes or breaks the shirt. Look at it. It's too high. It's in no man's land. You look like you live with your mother. Are you through?
Summarizes everything that Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David's highly acclaimed sitcom aspired to be. An excruciating step-by-step lampooning of the frustrations of everyday life.
Jerry, I have to tell you something. This is the dullest moment I've ever experienced.
From their initial emphasis on quotidian minutia to bizarre high-concept bottle episodes, Seinfeld would reinvent the very form of the 30-minute, 3-camera sitcom during its 9-year run. And while the show has only gotten more beloved over the time it has been off the air, the entire enterprise nearly went off the rails when, in Season 7, this show's longtime curmudgeonly co-showrunner Larry David left the program to pursue other opportunities. But before we get too deep, please subscribe to the Nerdstalgic channel in order to keep up with all of our videos. Loosely based on the life and career of the titular Jerry Seinfeld, Seinfeld ran from July 5, 1989 to May 14, 1998. With a total of 9 seasons, the show followed a quartet of characters who rapidly cemented themselves in the pantheon of primetime comedic icons. After being approached by NBC, showrunners Jerry Seinfeld and Larry David began discussing what a television show would look like as a vehicle for Seinfeld. After a late-night set at the now legendary stand-up venue Catch a Rising Star, the pair wandered across the street to a bodega. While there, they began mocking the various items on the store's shelves, which prompted David to suggest this should be a show, meaning that they would produce a program that was just 2 people talking about the inane trials of being a human in society. This idea evolved into the initial conception of the show, where a single camera crew would follow a fictionalized version of Jerry around prior to a stand-up gig. While NBC president Brandon Tartikoff liked the idea, he felt it needed to be evolved. And so the idea grew into a half-hour sitcom where the audience would witness the protagonist go through his daily life and see the frictions that would eventually inspire his stand-up routines at the climax of every episode. While a pilot was filmed, the show was not picked up. NBC passed. However, Tartikoff believed in it so much, he kept a VHS tape of the pilot in his office and would show it to other NBC execs who would come over for meetings. This eventually turned into Tartikoff turning some of his primetime specials budget, money intended to produce one-off 2-hour special events or concerts. Despite this meager start, Seinfeld quickly grew a rabid following, endearing a legion of fans from all walks of life. The success of the show can be linked directly to Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld and their highly distinct comedy voices. The tropes and stylistic flourishes of the show are directly related to the petty obsessions of its pair of creators. Rooted in observational comedy, Jerry Seinfeld's sensibility is slightly loopier, sometimes sweet, sarcastic, and overall more bombastic.
So what are you saying? You didn't like my act? So that's it?
I can't be with someone if I don't respect what they do.
You're a cashier!
Whereas Larry David, who is obviously the basis for George Costanza,
My name is George. I'm unemployed and I live with my parents.
I'm Victoria. Hi.
is much more nihilistic, misanthropic, and petty. His comedy feels autobiographical. His dark sense of humor permeates the early seasons of the show. He's someone who obviously is compelled by minor grudges, small-minded retorts, and a need for vindication.
This is it. I'm done. Through. It's over. I'm gone. Finished. Over. I will never work for you again.
Am I crazy? Or didn't you quit?
When?
The combination of these two comedic sensibilities provided the perfect mixture of sweet and sour, similar to Jerry and George's relationship as depicted within the show. These two comedians' perspectives of what creates compelling television would spawn one of the most successful and critically acclaimed television shows of all time. As the show grew and found its footing, you can really feel Larry David's influence establish itself. The initial first 2 seasons found new ways to break the conventional sitcom mold, even going so far as to have all the characters wait, in real time, for a seat at a Chinese restaurant. Season 3 of the show is what is commonly seen as when the show really hits its stride. George and Jerry start pitching a TV show to NBC based on Jerry's experience as a stand-up living in New York, which, is literally the show you're watching. This metatextual commentary would become a hallmark of David's writing. Over the course of the third season, George consistently makes the wrong choices, proves to be incorrigible, and ultimately almost screws them both out of a TV development deal because of greed.
Gonna get for this 50, 60,000?
Oh, I don't know.
I gotta get 50, I tell you what, we go to the coffee shop, you call your manager, maybe they made an offer.
This darkly cartoonish self-flagellation is David writing about his own tendency for self-sabotage. Perhaps the most controversial episode of the show's first 7 seasons, Season 4, Episode 11, The Contest, sees our 4 main characters all engaging in a competition to see who can go the longest without self-gratifying themselves.
I'm out.
Something that received a lot of attention from the press and arguably put the show on a wider platform due to the increased visibility. Episodes like this evolved directly from David's distinct and highly identifiable comedic voice, and arguably, he was just as important to cementing Seinfeld's success as Jerry Seinfeld himself. During the Season 7 finale, the episode titled The Invitations, we see possibly the darkest Larry David-inspired plotline yet conclude. It features George accidentally killing his fiancée by purchasing toxic wedding invitations. Fans and casual viewers as well all wondered, had the show gone too far? And David felt like he had nothing else to say with the show. He was tired of the grind of the show and opted to leave in order to pursue other potential opportunities. This proved to be a massive turning point for the show. Previous to this, the show had almost had a two-headed leader, 2 minds focusing on shaping and honing the show into the very specific vision of what their mission statement of no learning, no hugging, no growing demanded. But with David out of the picture, all of that responsibility landed on Jerry Seinfeld. He became the sole decision maker, while also being the lead performer. Many of the longtime Seinfeld contributing writers stepped up during this time period and attempted to help the show fill Larry David's absence. However, they weren't able to fill it in exactly the same way. The show changed. It got goofier.
Oh, God.
Larger and in some ways more traditional. In a quintessential non-traditional way.
Jerry, it's not what you think it is. It's 2 roosters pecking at each other. What? Yeah.
Seinfeld's solo seasons of the show had a fingerprint to them as much as the other seasons bear David's authorial stamp. Examples of the show becoming loopier and more extreme in these last 2 seasons include Season 8, Episode 8, The Chicken Roaster, written by Alec Berg and Jack Schaefer, might be the apotheosis of the Jerry years of Seinfeld. It sees a Kenny Rogers roaster setting up shop across the street, so Kramer and Jerry agree to switch apartments, causing them to switch personalities. Jerry becomes spastic, energetic, and over the top.
You don't know what it's like in there. All night long, things are creaking and cracking, and that red light is burning my brain.
Kramer adopts the placid, calm, and sardonic one-liners that Jerry usually spouts like,
Oh, yeah, I like this idea.
When you break it down and really examine the gear shift in the creative approaches between the 2 time periods, there's a stark difference between these 2 groupings of episodes. They serve as a real body of evidence about the irreplaceable nature of Larry David's creative contribution. The character of George is objectively never as strong as Larry David leaves. Jason Alexander's portrayal of George is still the same, but the writing for the character is never as on point. George goes from being a vindictive, petty, self-sabotaging malcontent to someone whose primary concern is saving a Frogger cabinet that has his high school best score on it. He goes from being the initiator of drama and conflict as a manifestation of his neuroses and flaws to being a purely reactive character. Jerry Seinfeld seemed more interested in retreading familiar narrative real estate or branching out into these loopy and yet more traditional arenas. Ironically, Larry David's darkness and cynicism arguably held back the show after a point. After the formal invention and genre-breaking ground had been traveled, the show had reached a wide audience. The David voice was bound to turn off people with its sharp edges and rough areas. When you look at the life of the show, the final 2 seasons were when it truly became a cultural phenomenon. Could this have happened without Seinfeld softening the edges and positioning the show into being an unfamiliar take on familiar tropes? Maybe, maybe not, but I think it's still safe to say that Larry David leaving broke Seinfeld. And well, that's all we have this week. What do you think? Did Seinfeld go off the rails? Was it even better after Larry David left? And as always, please subscribe to the Nerdstalgic channel in order to stay up to date with everything happening with the Nerdstalgic channel.